Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The crystal champagne flute didn't just slip from my fingers. It was crushed by the sudden, paralytic spasm of my own terror the moment his scent hit me. A heavy, suffocating wave of burnt cedar and sea salt that instantly turned the air in the ballroom into concrete. Time didn't slow down, it fractured. One moment, I was Lysander, the invisible catering temp trying to survive another shift among the city's elite. The next, I was prey, frozen under the golden chandeliers. I didn't need to look up to know who had just walked through the mahogany doors of the Grand Hotel. My body knew. The dormant omega glands at the back of my neck, which I had suppressed with cheap, black market patches for 4 years, throbbed with a phantom ache so violent it nearly brought me to my knees. It was him, Cassian Vance. The crown prince of the architectural world, the alpha who had once sworn to destroy me in the lecture halls, and the man whose child was currently sleeping in a damp, drafty apartment 6 miles away. I turned on my heel, ignoring the shattered glass and the spilled vintage Dom Perignon soaking into my cheap trousers. You, a voice rumbled, low and dangerous, cutting through the din of polite society chatter like a serrated blade. Stop. It wasn't a request. It was an alpha command. My legs locked. My breath hitched. The physiological response was humiliating, an instinctual submission wired into my biology that I had fought to unlearn. I could hear his footsteps approaching, heavy, deliberate, the gait of a predator who has finally cornered the rabbit that chewed through the fence. I squeezed my eyes shut, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Run, my mind screamed. Submit, my blood whispered. Turn around, Cassian ordered, his voice closer now, right at the shell of my ear. I could feel the heat radiating from his broad chest, a furnace of repressed rage and dominance. I turned slowly. Cassian hadn't changed, and that was the tragedy of it. He was still devastating. 6'3" of coiled muscle beneath a bespoke charcoal suit, hair the color of midnight ink, and eyes like molten silver that stripped me bare. But the boyish arrogance of our university days was gone, replaced by a cold, hardened ruthlessness. He looked at me not with the competitive fire of a rival, but with the hollow, terrifying hunger of a starving wolf. Hello, Cassian, I managed to whisper, clutching the empty serving tray to my chest like a shield. He didn't blink. He reached out, his large hand hovering near my neck before gripping my chin, forcing me to look up. His thumb brushed over the pulse point that was fluttering wildly. For years, Lysander, he murmured, the softness of his tone making it infinitely more terrifying than a shout. I tore this city apart brick by brick. I checked every morgue, every hospital, every flight manifest. His eyes dropped to my scent patch, peeling slightly at the edges from my sweat. He sneered. Hiding? From me? I had to go, I choked out. And yet, he leaned in, inhaling deeply, his nose brushing against my jawline, sending a shiver of electricity down my spine that made my knees buckle. You smell like sour milk and fear. But beneath that, you smell like me. He pulled back, his silver eyes narrowing as the calculation clicked into place. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. His grip on my chin tightened, bruising. Why is your scent profile matured, Lysander? He hissed, the alpha in him rising, the air around us trembling with the sheer weight of his pheromones. Omegas only change like that after. He stopped. The silence between us was louder than the orchestra playing waltzes in the background. Where is it? He demanded, his voice dropping to a growl that vibrated in my very bones. I don't know what you're talking about. I lied, though I knew it was futile. The child? Cassian roared, causing the entire ballroom to fall deathly silent. He didn't care about the scandal. He didn't care about the hundreds of eyes watching the CEO of Vance Global lose his composure. Where did you hide my child? The drive to my apartment was a blur of neon lights and suffocating silence. Cassian had dragged me out of the gala, throwing me into the back of a sleek, armored sedan that cost more than the building I lived in. He sat across from me, his legs spread in an assertion of space, watching me with the unblinking intensity of a warden. He hadn't asked for the address. He had simply unlocked his phone, tapped the screen 3 times, and his security team had triangulated my location based on the burner phone in my pocket. It was a terrifying reminder of the power disparity between us, a disparity that had been the root of everything. It's a dump, he stated flatly as the car pulled up to the crumbling brick tenement in the East District. It's a home, I countered, finding a sliver of my old spine. It's what I could afford without using my name. Because you were dead, he said, the words heavy with accusation. Lysander Thorne died in a boating accident 4 years ago. Or so the report said. A report my father showed me. I flinched. The mention of Silas Vance, the patriarch of the Vance dynasty, sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. If your father showed you the report, then you should have known better than to look for ghosts. I never believed it, Cashin said, his voice cracking slightly, revealing the first chink in his armor. I felt the bond snap, Lysander. I felt you pull away. But I never felt you die. An alpha knows when his fated is gone. He opened the door before the driver could assist him. Lead the way. The walk up the 4 flights of stairs was a procession to the gallows. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so badly I dropped them twice. Cashin didn't help. He just watched, his jaw clenched tight enough to grind bone. I opened the door. The apartment was small, illuminated only by the streetlights filtering through the thin curtains. The smell of lavender baby powder and damp plaster filled the air. On the worn-out beige sofa, Mrs. Gable, my elderly neighbor, was dozing off. She woke with a start as the heavy door creaked. Lysander, you're home here. She stopped, her eyes widening as she saw the dark, looming figure behind me. Thank you, Mrs. Gable, I said quickly, rushing to hand her the crumpled bills from my pocket. You can go. Please. She looked from me to Cashin, sensing the danger, the oppressive alpha aura filling the tiny room. She nodded hurriedly and scurried past him. Cashin didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on the corner of the room. There, in a second-hand crib painted a soft yellow, was Leo. Cashin moved. He didn't stalk this time. He drifted, drawn by a gravity stronger than his own will. He approached the crib as if it were a bomb, or perhaps a holy relic. He looked down. Leo was 3 years old. He had my unruly curls, but everything else, the shape of his nose, the set of his jaw, and even in sleep, the pout of his lips, was Cashin. I watched Cashin's back. I saw the tension leave his shoulders, replaced by a tremor. The great Cashin Vance, the man who chewed up corporations and spat them out, reached out a hand. His index finger, trembling, brushed Leo's cheek. He's perfect, Cashin whispered. Then, the spell broke. He spun around, the tenderness evaporating instantly, replaced by a fury so cold it burned. He advanced on me, backing me until my spine hit the kitchenette counter. He caged me in, his hands slamming onto the counter on either side of my waist. 3 years, he snarled. You stole 3 years. You stole his first steps. His first words. You stole my right to protect him. What? I did it to protect him. I yelled back, the dam finally breaking. I did it to save him from you. From me. Cashin laughed, a harsh, dark sound. I would have burned the world for you, Lysander. Even when we were rivals, even when we tore each other's theories apart in the studio, did I ever hurt you? Did I ever let anyone else touch you? No, I admitted, tears stinging my eyes. But you aren't the only Vance. Cashin went still. My father. He came to me. I confessed, the words tumbling out like blood from a wound. The morning after the heat hit. After everything changed. He told me that if I stayed, if I tried to trap his son with a bastard mongrel, he would ensure you lost everything. Your inheritance, your reputation, your place at the firm. He said he'd ruin your career before it started. I looked up at him, pleading for him to understand. We were 22, Cashin. Architecture was your soul. I couldn't be the reason you lost it. So you decided for me? Cashin's voice was deceptively calm. You decided that I cared more about buildings than my own mate? My own blood. He threatened to hurt the baby. Cashin. I screamed, the secret I had buried deepest finally tearing its way out. He said accidents happen to omega pregnancies all the time. The air in the room changed. The cedar scent didn't just smell burned anymore. It smelled like ash and wildfire. The primal rage radiating off Cashin was enough to make the windows rattle. He threatened. My pup. I ran. I sobbed, sliding down the cabinets to the floor. I took the money he threw at me. I changed my name, and I ran. I didn't want to leave you. God. Cashin, It felt like ripping my own heart out. But I had to keep Leo safe. Silence stretched, heavy and thick. I waited for the recriminations, for him to tell me I was weak, that I should have fought. Instead, I felt warmth. Cashin knelt before me. The monster was gone, replaced by the man I had fallen in love with in the quiet corners of the university library. He didn't touch me at first. He just let his pheromones wash over me, not to dominate, but to soothe. A thick blanket of comfort. Look at me, Liz. I lifted my tear-stained face. You were a child yourself, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Scared and alone, facing a man who has crushed industries. You didn't run out of cowardice. You ran out of love. He reached out and wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. The skin-on-skin contact sent a jolt through me, reawakening the bond that had been starved for years. But you made a mistake, Cashin said, his eyes darkening. You underestimated what kind of alpha I am. He stood up, effortlessly scooping me into his arms as if I weighed nothing. I panicked for a second. Leo, my security is outside, he said. They will bring the crib. They will bring everything. You are never spending another night in this rat hole. Cashin, your father, is a dead man walking, Cashin said, and the absolute certainty in his tone chilled me. He thinks he controls the empire? He only holds the seat because I let him. Tomorrow, the board meets. Tomorrow, I expose his embezzlement, his blackmail, and his threats against my family. By noon, he will be lucky if he isn't in a cell. He carried me toward the door, glancing back at the sleeping boy in the corner. We are going home, Lysander. To the penthouse. The one I designed in our final year. The one with the studio facing north, just like you liked. You built it. I whispered, resting my head against his chest, listening to the steady, powerful thrum of his heart. I built it for us, he said, pressing a kiss to the top of my hair. And I have kept it empty for 4 years. Waiting. The penthouse was exactly as he had described it in our late-night drafting sessions. High ceilings, glass walls overlooking the city skyline, and a sense of peace that I hadn't felt since before the chaos began. Leo was settled in a room that looked like it had been prepared for years, filled with toys that were too old for a baby, but perfect for a toddler. Cashin had been buying things, I realized. Buying things for a child he hoped existed. Once Leo was asleep, Cashin led me to the master bedroom. It was a cavernous space dominated by a massive bed. He sat me down on the edge of the mattress and knelt between my legs, unbuttoning my waiter's shirt with reverent slowness. I'm sorry, I whispered again. For the lost time. Don't apologize, he commanded softly, pressing his lips to the pulse point on my wrist. Just promise me. No more running. If the world comes for us, we burn it down together. You and me. Rivals. Partners. Mates. I finished for him. He looked up, his silver eyes glowing in the dim light. Let me claim you, Lysander. Properly this time. Let me put a mark on you that will tell every living soul, including my father, that you belong to the Viper of Vance Global. I tilted my head back, bearing the scarred, unmarked gland on my neck. It was an act of ultimate trust, an act of surrender that wasn't about weakness, but about finding strength in belonging. Do it, I breathed. Cashin didn't hesitate. He surged up, his mouth capturing mine in a kiss that tasted of desperation and homecoming. His hands roamed my body, possessive and heavy, mapping the changes, learning the new curves. When his teeth finally grazed the sensitive skin of my neck, I didn't flinch. I arched into him. He bit down. The pain was sharp, electric, and fleeting, immediately replaced by a flood of endorphins and the metaphysical snap of the bond locking into place. It was like a color returning to a gray world. I could feel him, his love, his protectiveness, his fierce, unyielding devotion, flooding into my mind. Mine, he growled against my skin, licking the bite mark to seal it. Yours, I gasped, clutching his shoulders. We lay there for hours, tangled in the sheets, the city lights twinkling below us like diamonds scattered on black velvet. The next morning, the war would begin. Silas Vance would come for us. The lawyers would descend. The scandal would be front-page news. But as I watched Cashin sleep, one arm thrown protectively over my waist and the other reaching out toward the baby monitor on the nightstand, I knew one thing for certain. The wildest year of my youth was over. The era of the queens was beginning. And this time, I wasn't running anywhere. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf, by letting the wolf realize he was never hunting alone. If you enjoyed seeing Lysander finally stop running and Cashin take absolute control, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a partner who hid your child for 3 years if they did it to protect them? Or is that a betrayal you could never get past? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,